Should you celebrate Advent? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourishment. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and today I have a friend that I haven't had a chance to connect with for a long time. Her name is Susan Mathis, and she is a multi-published author of over 30 works, including novels, novellas, and nonfiction books, and she is launching right now her 16th novel, and it's The Irish Rose Orphan's Christmas. And she's here to talk to us about Advent and inspire how you can make your Christmas season even more memorable than you ever have. Welcome, Susan. I am delighted to feature you on Flourishment this holiday season.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Susan, let's talk about the contrast between the commercialized look at Advent. We see lots of Advent calendars, from chocolates and candies to coffee to any kind of merchandise that you can think of in an Advent calendar where you get stuff every day up until Christmas. So you're getting more, consuming more, consuming more. Whereas the Advent that we want to focus on today is about devoting ourselves to the Lord. Can you talk about that contrast and why it's so valuable to do the devotion, not just the consumption?
The thought is pretty simple. We are being pushed and pushed and pushed. Everything we see, everything we hear is buy, get, me. In our culture, it's so me-centric. And we can so easily lose that touch of, whoa, wait a minute. We need to sit back. And what is really the meaning of Christmas? What is that? And, we put up our nativity scene or we put up our Advent calendar, and it's fun for little kids and stuff like that. But we can so easily lose the real meaning of Christmas and what that looks like. You have to be intentional. And I know your program is all about being intentional and making that intentionality a lifestyle. Celebrating the Advent season is just one great way of doing it. I grew up very traditional. It wasn't really infused into personal. It was the church we went to, and we did the Advent wreath every Sunday. But last year I went to a home with younger kids, and they had an Advent wreath. And they had me over for dinner, and they did the Advent. I was in tears. I was overcome because those kids, they had taken the time to journal. Getting choked up just talking about it. They took time to sit around and do their devotions every day around the table. And it was just precious. They're the part of the reason why I put everything into here, and I researched it and I learned it, that it's way more than just going to church and lighting a candle and saying a couple of prayers.
I think that's so true. I think it's important that we take the time to be intentional. And in a way, Advent, in addition to preparing us for Christmas, is also preparing us for the new year and our days ahead. That last candle, the Christ candle, is a candle of promise, of getting us to be more pure and to make steps intentionally with our lives so we can set ourselves up to the next season, not just end ourselves at this season. At the end of the year, we're also preparing our hearts and our minds, because learning to wait well and to be intentional is really important for mental health, for your productivity and your fruitfulness. It's good for child's brain development, actually. It can prevent us from going into depression and anxiety and those kinds of things that the opposite kind of looking at Christmas would get us more prone to and more susceptible to. So let's talk about some of the benefits from Advent that are both spiritual and physical and mental and social as well.
Oh, those are all good points. Yeah, it helps us to slow down and stop and breathe and remember why the season matters. We've talked about that. It also gives us a rhythm, a Christ-centered rhythm. We can go, oh yeah, it's Christmas. Happy birthday, Jesus. But then forget, that every day to recenter around Christ. It builds anticipation, and that's part of the fun. When I plan a trip or something, part of the fun and the excitement is the anticipation, and instead of the consumer pressure that we live under all the time. It shifts your focus from what do I need to buy to who am I becoming? And I think that's really cool. It gives a family, as I saw and I mentioned, a shared spiritual anchor. That is so lacking so often today that everybody goes there and they all have their own quiet time, but coming together every Sunday night or whatever to light the wreath and to talk about it and to have a faith conversation and to build the unity and the gratitude and the sense of tradition and all. I don't know. I think that's really important. It's just a visual reminder that Jesus is bringing light into the darkness. It just is a symbol that it reminds you. It's something that's almost like a little sanctuary. I put mine on a little table in my office, and I look at it often, and I just pause and I pray, and it refocuses me to what is really going on, what really matters.
The difference between doing a ritual and having it not meaning something is whether or not you do make that ritual personal. You have to have kind of both. We are sensory beings, we are tangible beings. So sometimes those practices really help us remember to center our spirits on what we're doing. But we do need to remember that we're not just human doings. The world would tell us we're human doings, and even more now than ever in human history, we are doing. The more we save time with technology and AI, it seems the busier we get. It doesn't really get us to be able to take time to relax. It just gives us more different things to do. And yet, the Lord would have us during this season, especially, this is a wonderful opportunity to center our doings on His being and to center our beings on Him, so that whatever it is that we're doing, we center on being with Christ, being with Emmanuel, God with us, God being with us. And that is the meaning of the season. So I'd like to invite the audience today to think about, how are your doings centering your being? Think about how Advent can be a doing that centers your being instead of an empty doing. Try to trim out some of your empty doings and replace meaningful things that center your being on the being and personhood of Christ and on our Father God. So those are just some things I just wanted to point out about what you were saying. Susan, do you have any final tips that you would like to leave with the audience today?
To take that time, make it a sacred time. Set aside all the craziness, turn off the TV, turn off the radio, and settle down. If you have young kids, just wrap your arms around them. Make that a really special time. I wish I would have thought to do this when my kids were little. And I would love to do it with my grandkids if parents will allow it. I'm going to see. Because I don't know, I think it could really bring you a spiritual togetherness that could be really, really special and be something that when you're 60 years old, you go, oh yeah, I remember that time. That was such a special time during Christmas, instead of, oh yeah, we're going to put up the candy canes and we're going to, eat chocolate, and we're going to pull out a piece of chocolate out of this silly Advent calendar that really means nothing.
That is so important, Susan. And I know that families are looking to make their gifts more meaningful, because as costs rise, we're looking at how can we afford all of the big, expensive, every new, snazzy, sparkly thing that our kids want, that our spouses wants, that our family wants. How can we have some gifts that are meaningful? Like, for example, Irish Rose Orphans Christmas would be a wonderful pre-Christmas gift. What are some ways that we can make those meaningful gifts that center us on God this year at Christmas, during Advent season even?
What about a journal? What about starting giving each of the family a journal to start journaling their quiet time if they're not doing that yet? What about doing some service projects together where you're giving? One of the fun things that another family with young kids that does, that I think is really cool, is if they get 3 presents, they have to take 3 presents and give them to a homeless shelter or something. So they're not getting a whole bunch of junk that they're filling their bedrooms with. They have to choose what 3 presents they get 3 presents they give. And I like that. I think that's really tangible, really cool, instead of just getting. So those are just a couple ideas I thought.
Great idea, Susan. Well, how can people get some of your books, maybe for gifts for themselves or for others in their family, including your new one, Irish Rose Orphans Christmas, and stay connected with you?
Yeah, I would love to stay connected. Just go to my website, Susan G. Mathis. I have to put the G in there because there's another author that's Susan Mathis with her husband, and she writes yucky stuff. So make sure you put your G in there.
The G-rated Susan Mathis. Yeah.
All my books are G-rated for sure. They're sweet historical fiction. So would love for you to check it out.
I hope that all of you listening were inspired to make this time of waiting for Christmas, preparing your hearts, becoming who God calls you to be so that you can be more present with Him and prepare yourselves for celebrating Emmanuel and then for beginning that next season of your life in 2026 and beyond, for who God has called you to be and to really stay centered on Him from here on. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.